This is about a few rescue dogs that were shot and killed because of COVID, is what they're saying. Now, this took place in Australia, not the United States yet, but this is in Australia where they are under strict lockdown. They are sending in a bunch of law enforcement and just everything else to try and make sure that everybody is locked down as much as possible. And as a result of this, you have businesses doing some pretty ridiculous stuff because of these forced lockdowns. So several impounded dogs, due to be rescued by a shelter, have been actually shot and killed by a rural council because of its interpretation of the COVID-19 restrictions. And notice how they've kind of put in the little kind of disclaimer kind of thing in there, their interpretation of the COVID-19 restrictions, okay? So they killed dogs, they killed the dogs to prevent volunteers at the animal shelter from traveling to pick up the animals last week. Literally to keep volunteers from picking the animals up. Because I'm assuming they were like, well, we don't want people coming over here that may have COVID, so we're just gonna, to keep them from coming over here, we're just gonna kill them all. If we don't have any dogs, I have no dogs to pick up, right? That's terrible. This is Australia right now. This is government tyranny right here. Because what you have is a business that is probably scared, and they're like, we don't want to get in trouble for having to, getting in trouble for maybe not locking down like we think we should, like the government's saying, and out of that fear, they're killing dogs to try and keep volunteers from coming there to pick them up, to be rescued. This is just a very heinous, egregious, and despicable act of violence. And this isn't the only thing that's occurred like this, but it's now it's kind of out there. It's kind of out there, and people are like, okay, something needs to take place here. But this is what happens when government tries to force down some mandated policy and assume that everybody's just going to go along with it the same way. That's not what's going to take place. When you start scaring people like this, there's no telling what kind of evil things are taking place that you aren't even aware of. So the council decided to take this course of action, according to them, to protect its employees and community, including vulnerable Aboriginal populations, from the risk of COVID-19 restrictions. But like I mentioned, this is a kind of the ugly face of the COVID-19 lockdowns and policies that they think work. But this is what happens as a result. So this reprehensible act takes place all while the Australian government continues to basically say you must be locked down entirely no matter what. All because of COVID. That's the reasoning behind all of this. And Australia is extremely strict. They're extremely strict. If we're not careful, America could end up just like this. We could end up with shelters doing this exact same thing to dogs, all because people are scared of the American government and getting in trouble because of opening their doors for anything, even just continuing to run their business. So this could be coming here very soon if we're not careful. We need to be aware of what's going on around the world here, because this is a massive problem. So in Sydney, the country's largest city, military personnel have been called in to enforce lockdown measures. Because once again, this is about trying to make sure everybody is under the control of the government. You must do everything they're saying. And as I was talking about in the kind of the last topic, what's the goal? What are they even trying to achieve right now? They're locking down all of these people. You have people literally killing dogs just to keep volunteers from coming to pick them up to rescue them. And what does the government have to say about that? What are they even trying to achieve? I mentioned the hospitalizations. What was it, 120 something people in ICU out of 25 million people in Australia, and they're doing this? What's your goal? Is it zero? Like, I'm really curious as to see what's going on. But as the usual fashion goes with all of these things, where's the mainstream media? They're nowhere to be found. They're silent on this issue because, of course, they don't care about anything that's slamming or going to be against the lockdowns whatsoever. The mainstream media is going to remain silent on it because that's the easiest thing for them to do. This clip from The William Hall Show is sponsored by the Second Amendment Jerky Company. This is a company founded on a simple idea: make the best beef jerky available and donate to the efforts and organizations that help support the Second Amendment. And let me tell you, this is awesome beef jerky. No gimmicks. Go to 2ajerky.com to support the Second.